Your cat just fell asleep 3 feet away from you, and without saying a single word, it just told you exactly how it feels about you, about your home, and maybe even about its own body. You just didn't know how to read it. Cats can't tell us when something's wrong. They can't explain when they feel safe. And they definitely can't explain why they suddenly look like a pretzel on your couch cushion. But their sleeping posture does all of that talking for them. By the end of this video, you won't just find these positions cute. You'll actually know what your cat is communicating every single time it drifts off. So let's get into it. Before we break down each position, it helps to understand something most owners never think about. Cats aren't wired like us. We sleep in one long block at night because we evolved as daytime hunters with nighttime rest. Cats didn't. Cats are what's called crepuscular, which means their bodies are tuned to be most alert at dawn and dusk, the exact hours when the animals they once hunted, like rodents and small birds, were also active. That single fact changes everything about how a cat sleeps. Instead of one long sleep like ours, a healthy adult cat naps in short bursts, often somewhere between 12 and 16 hours a day, broken into dozens of separate rest periods instead of one continuous night. And within those naps, a cat cycles between 2 very different states. A light doze that takes up most of that time, where the brain stays partly on guard, and short pockets of deeper sleep, sometimes only a few minutes long, where real physical repair and dreaming actually happen. Once you understand that a cat's brain is built around vigilance first and rest second, every position on this list starts to make a lot more sense. It's not just cute cat naps. It's a body language system inherited from a wild ancestor that never had the luxury of feeling completely safe. Quick favor before we dive in. If you've got a cat curled up near you right now, drop what position they're in down in the comments. I want to see how many of these we can spot together. And if you're into this kind of animal behavior breakdown, hit subscribe because we're doing a lot more of these. Let's start with the most common one, the curled ball, sometimes called the cinnamon roll. The tail wraps around the body, the head tucks down toward the chest, and the whole cat compresses into a tight circle. This isn't random. A curled up cat is doing 2 things at once, conserving body heat by minimizing exposed surface area, and physically shielding the softest, most vulnerable parts of its body, like the belly and throat, from anything that might come at it while it's unconscious. This is the same posture you'll see in wild cats, foxes, and even dogs sleeping outdoors because it's less about personality and more about basic survival math. A cat in this shape isn't necessarily anxious. In fact, most cats default to this position simply because it's efficient. But if you notice a cat that curls unusually tightly, tenses its muscles while doing it, or tucks its head unusually far down, that can sometimes point to discomfort rather than simple warmth seeking, which is worth keeping an eye on, especially in colder rooms or with older cats dealing with joint stiffness. Now here's one that looks adorable, but actually says something deeper about how your cat experiences your home. When a cat squeezes itself into a box, a sink, a mixing bowl, or any tight little nook, it's doing something researchers call thigmotaxis, the instinct to seek out physical contact with solid surfaces on multiple sides of the body. In the wild, tight, enclosed spaces mean fewer directions an ambush can come from. Your cat's brain doesn't know the difference between a cardboard box in your living room and a hollow log in the wild. The feeling of solid walls pressing in is what matters. And that feeling reads as safety. If your cat is doing this constantly, especially in a busy or loud household, it might genuinely be telling you it needs more low-stress hiding spots. This is actually one of the easiest fixes in cat ownership: a covered bed, an enclosed cube, or even just a cardboard box left in a quiet corner can measurably lower a stressed cat's baseline anxiety. This next one is the big one, the position most owners get genuinely excited about: sleeping flat on the back with the belly completely exposed, legs splayed out however they land. To understand why this matters, you need to remember what we just talked about. A cat's stomach holds its major organs and has almost no protective muscle covering it, unlike its back or sides. This is, without exaggeration, the single most defenseless position a cat's body can be in, which is exactly why it means so much when they choose it. A cat does not expose that much vulnerability unless its brain has fully downgraded its threat assessment of the environment to essentially zero. This is trust in its most literal biological form. It's also worth saying clearly, belly up during sleep is not an invitation for a belly rub. That exposed stomach is sensitive, and plenty of cats will reflexively grab or nip a hand that goes for it, even mid-nap. Enjoy the sight. Don't test the trust. Here's where things get genuinely interesting from a neuroscience angle. You've probably caught your cat resting with its eyes at half-mast or even seemingly asleep with one eye barely cracked open. This connects directly back to that light doze state we talked about earlier. For the bulk of a cat's daily sleep, its brain is running a kind of standby mode. The ears will often still rotate towards sounds, whiskers may twitch, and the animal can snap to full alertness almost instantly. Some researchers studying animal sleep have found that several species, mostly aquatic mammals and birds, are capable of resting one half of the brain while the other stays partially alert, allowing one eye to stay open. Whether domestic cats do a true version of this is still debated among scientists, but what's well documented is that cats spend the majority of their sleep hours in this lighter, easily interrupted state rather than deep sleep. And that's a direct leftover from being both a hunter and, at a smaller size, potential prey themselves. If your brain is already rethinking every nap your cat has ever taken, that's exactly the reaction I was going for. Smash that like button. It genuinely helps this video reach more cat owners who have no idea what their pet's been telling them this whole time. Okay, back to it. The loaf position is exactly what it sounds like. The cat sits upright, paws tucked neatly underneath the body, tail often wrapped around the side, looking essentially like a fluffy bread loaf. This one sits in an interesting middle zone. It's more relaxed than sitting fully upright and alert, but it's not full deep sleep surrender either. A loafing cat has its legs tucked away specifically so it can't spring into action instantly, which tells you it feels reasonably comfortable, but it hasn't fully let its guard down the way a belly up or fully stretched out cat has. Think of it as a cat's version of resting on a couch instead of climbing fully into bed. It's often a short-term position, meaning your cat is probably planning to get up again soon, rather than settling in for a long stretch. When a cat lies fully on its side with legs extended, sometimes stretched out to an almost comical length, this is one of the clearest signals of total physical relaxation available. Unlike the loaf, there's no tucked-away readiness here. The limbs are extended and would take real effort to mobilize quickly. Cats tend to drop into this position specifically in spots that feel low risk: a sunny patch of floor, a spot near their owner, or a room with no other pets creating tension. This posture is also strongly associated with deeper, longer sleep cycles, rather than the light dozing we covered earlier. Meaning, if you see this, your cat is likely genuinely down for a while. This one tends to get the most awe reactions online, and it does have a sweet explanation, but also a practical one. Covering the eyes with a paw helps block out light, which matters a lot for an animal whose ancestors evolved to sleep during brighter daylight hours between hunts. It can also help retain a bit of extra warmth around the face. But there's a behavioral layer too. This position often shows up when a cat wants to disengage completely from stimulation, essentially opting out of the environment rather than staying semi-alert. If your cat consistently does this in a bright or high-traffic room, it might simply be their personal solution to sensory overload, the same way a person might pull a blanket over their head. Ever notice your cat draped over the arm of a chair, balanced along the top of a door, or stretched across a stair railing with all four legs dangling? This is height-seeking behavior, and it's tied to something deeply instinctual. Elevated positions in the wild offer a wider visual field and a defensive advantage. It's much harder to be ambushed from above than from ground level. A cat sleeping in a high, narrow spot is often chasing that same sense of surveillance and control over its surroundings, even while technically off duty. It's less about comfort and more about maintaining a mental sense of oversight, almost like sleeping in the watchtower instead of the barracks. And finally, the position that confuses almost every new cat owner. Limbs pointing in different directions. The head twisted at an angle that looks like it shouldn't be possible. The whole body seemingly folded in half. It looks alarming, but this is almost always completely harmless. Cats have an exceptionally flexible spine, with far more vertebrae than humans and loosely attached muscles that allow a range of motion most mammals simply don't have. There's usually no single hidden meaning behind this one. It typically just means the cat found a shape that felt comfortable in that specific moment, on that specific surface, at that specific temperature. Odd, yes. Concerning, almost never. So here's the real takeaway. Most of what we covered today is completely normal, and honestly, kind of beautiful. It's your cat, in its most unguarded moments, telling you how safe it feels in the life you've built for it. But sleep posture can also be an early warning sign. If you ever notice a sudden lasting shift, a cat that used to sprawl out and expose its belly suddenly curling tightly for days, hiding constantly in enclosed spaces it never used before, or sitting hunched and rigid instead of relaxed, especially alongside changes in appetite, energy, or litter box habits, that combination is worth a conversation with your veterinarian. Posture alone rarely tells the whole story, but a change in posture paired with other symptoms absolutely can. If this changed the way you're going to look at your cat's next nap, that's the whole point of this channel, taking the small, everyday things about our pets and actually explaining the why behind them. Subscribe if you want more of these breakdowns, and let me know in the comments which position your cat sleeps in the most. I read every single one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.